This is Scott Cofield, Superintendent, Aniana City Schools, and this is our 2011-2012 State of Our Schools presentation. From a financial standpoint, we have been able to stabilize the effects of the economy. As you can see here, in 2008 we had about $2.2 million, and over the next 2 years to 2010 we were losing about $500,000 because of proration. Because of the stimulus funds and other changes that we've made, we've been able to stabilize that, and currently we have about $1.2 million in our general fund, which is a little more than 1 month of reserve for us, which is equal to about $800,000 a year. We have been spending the past year or so working on a plan of excellence. We are ready to roll that out to the public, and we hope that it is something that will be a guiding force for us over the next few years. Issues for 2011 and 2012. This year's state budget, will we be prorated again? And communicating our plan of excellence, what we've been working on, and how much local support we will get for our plan of excellence. We do have a guiding principle here at Aniana City Schools that we are committed to excellence. We understand that's a phrase a lot of people use. We understand that if we're not careful, what we do is become committed to mediocrity. We don't want to do that, and we do understand that excellence is worth the sacrifice. We do have a vision. We want to be a great school system, and we want to live in a great community. To accomplish that, we believe there are basically 9 what we're calling essential strands, because we believe that here in Aniana City, that if your child goes to school, we want to achieve excellence within each one of these essential strands. We want your children to be safe. We want them to have a rigorous curriculum. We want the best teachers and administrators. We want them to be exposed to technology, because we know that's the wave of the future. We want to have extracurricular programs that excite our students. We want to have enough staff to provide the services. We want to have adequate facilities. Community support is huge, and we want to make sure we are doing the proper planning. Within each one of those essential strands, we have individual goals to make sure that we are accountable. Many different goals in each one of those essential strands. We think it's important to note who we are, and we are constantly looking at data, what we call our vital signs, and we want to share some of that with you. We are a growing school system. As you can see, over the last 10 years, we've gone from a student population of 1,227 to now 1,451. That's about 18% growth over the last 10 years. There was a huge jump from 2001 and 2006, and we have seen that growth level off somewhat in the last couple of years. We know that we're a part of a growing community, whether you're looking at Aniana or Blount County over the last 2 decades. We know that there is growth there, and we know that in the next 10 years, the data that we look at, that there is anticipated to be another 16 to 19% growth in Blount County, which we expect to be a part of. Our demographics, as you can see here, our largest subgroup is our white population of 74%. Our largest minority population, or the Hispanic population, about 21%. We are comprised, about 31% of our kids come from out-of-district students who pay tuition to attend Aniana City Schools. Based on our free and reduced lunch count, we have about 41% poverty and 59% non-poverty students. And we look at the changes that have occurred over the past 10 years. We have seen slight growth in our white population from 994 to 1,069. It is the Hispanic population that has more than doubled, from 136 students in 2001 to 301 students in 2011. And the amount of students in poverty has also doubled, from 288 to almost 597 students. The culture of our schools, we feel good from our teacher surveys. They believe that we're headed in the right direction, that this is a good place to work, and that our students have pride in the schools. From an academic standpoint, we're really excited about some of our academic data. This is research that was put out by PARCA, which is a Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama located at Samford University. And what PARCA did was they compared every school system to state averages. As an example here, you will see, we'll look at third grade in math, non-poverty students, and you can see that in the state of Alabama for third grade, 73.4% of non-poverty students in math scored at a level 4 on the Alabama reading and math test. That's the highest level that you can score. And if you look down at Aniana, you see that 92.8% of our students scored at level 4, third grade non-poverty students. And what PARCA did was they color-coded each grid. And if your school system was over 10 points higher than the state average, you got a dark green color in your grid. If it was over 10 points less, you got a dark red. Anywhere from 1 to 10 points, light green grid, or light red grid if it was below. So basically, dark green is well above state averages, and light green is above state averages. And as you can see here, Aniana City Schools was third grade, fourth grade, or fifth grade with our non-poverty, and even with our poverty students, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade with math. And over on the right, you see the reading grades. But as you scan across there, what you see is all green grids with several dark green grids. They did this research for grades for math in 3 through 5, for reading in 3 through 5. And moving on, now you see a slide that includes math for grades 6 through 8 and reading for 6 through 8. And again, you see Aniana, although in grade 8 with our non-poverty students and in grade 6 with poverty students, you see a gray, which means that we were statistically about the same as the state average. And only in 8th grade math with our poverty students were we below the state average. PARCA put together a list of the school systems that were the highest performing on this assessment, and as you can see here, there were 5 school systems that over to the right had 100% of their, every grid was a green grid. We are very proud of the fact that Aniana was in the top 8. As you can see, 88% of our grids were green, which puts us in the top 10 of all the school systems in the state of Alabama. We're very proud of that. This research by PARCA also shows that they look at the poverty. As you can see, Aniana had 41% poverty. So we were competing, like you see up there at Mountain Brook, which had no poverty. And interesting to note, the dollar amount the spending per student. In Aniana, we accomplished this feat spending $6,652 per student, way less than other high-performing school systems. As you can see, as you glance over the names of the school systems on this, and you look at some of the dollar spending, what they're spending per student. So very proud of our schools. That was a very nice accomplishment. We are constantly looking at comparative systems. We want to make sure that we're competing at a level. And so what we do is, here's a list of 25 other small city school systems. These are places that are very much like Aniana. If you drive downtown in any of these other small cities, they are very much like us, not a lot of difference. So we're constantly comparing ourselves to other school systems, and when you see the comparative 25 throughout this presentation, what we're talking about is a comparison of the other 25 school systems. We've also looked at the highest performing school systems of those 25 school systems, and we've created a list, and as you can see, we believe that Aniana City Schools, when compared to those other 25, is one of the top performers along with these other school systems. And we're very similar to those other top academic school systems, small city school systems, from a demographics point of view. Our white population is very similar. Our poverty population is very similar. The only difference probably is we have a little higher Hispanic population than most of those other small city school systems that are very successful. We have developed what we call comparative groups, because it is difficult sometimes to look at all the data from 25 school systems. So we try to take the highest performing school systems, and what we do is we compare ourselves academically to other high performing school systems. So one of the comparison groups you'll see is GBPJ, which is an average of the scores of Gunnersville, Boaz, Piedmont, and Jacksonville, other high performing small city school systems. We also have a comparison of Trussville, Oxford, Coleman, and Albertville, just because these are larger school systems that offer their students a wide range of programs, from academic to extracurricular programs. Financially, when you look at the profile sheets from the State Department of Education, surprisingly, I think to a lot of people is the level at which we support our schools. As you can see from this report, near the bottom of this report, when we are given a grade for our tax support of our school systems, we have a grade of D on our tax effort. And this is a report that the state puts out. Also, when you looked at a ranking, if there is a ranking of school systems of the 132 school systems, and Oneonta City Schools is ranked 98th in our tax effort, which looks at the equivalence of meals equivalents being paid, and that is dead last when compared to other city school systems. Inevitably, when we show this information to people, people are surprised by some of the information that they see. So it always begs the question, are we who you thought we were? Looking at these essential strands, we have looked at each one of these 9 essential strands. We have looked at our strengths and weaknesses within each one of them. And when it comes to safety, we believe our strengths are our partnerships with our local agencies. We have a lot of the hardware in place also. Our weaknesses, we would like to improve our traffic flow around our facility as far as cars and transportation. And if you have to drop a student off or transport your kids, you probably know what I'm talking about. Our buses are overcrowded. We've had to reduce the number of buses because of proration. And we also don't have some of the alternative programs for at-risk students that we would like to have. We simply can't afford them. Also, I'd like to see us improve in our awareness and treatment of social and mental issues with our students. In curriculum, I think we're very strong. We score above state averages in almost every academic indicator that you look at. We can improve. I would like to see us engage in more curriculum alignment and more best practice strategies. Look at more authentic learning, dealing with technology and those types of things. As far as our teachers, I think we have a veteran staff that has established a very high reputation at Oneonta City Schools. Again, a weakness, I think we should be doing a better job providing them more thorough professional development. And not a weakness, but a threat, is complacency. 50% of our staff have over 15 years of experience, and 15% have more than 25 years of experience. So we must make sure that we don't become complacent. This is just a snapshot of what an AYP report would look like from the state. The green is all good. You have several cells. We have made AYP, which is the federal program that monitors schools, and we continue to do well in that academic indicator. 49 school systems did not make AYP. We were one of the 83 school systems that did. We do know that AYP presents problems in the future. Our graduation rate fluctuates from the 80s to the 90s. 90% is usually the cutoff for AYP, and we are also concerned about special education scores counting towards AYP, as is other school systems. Those are the 2 indicators that could possibly cause us problems with AYP in the future. We look at other academic indicators. AYP is kind of a minimum standard. We like to look at others. We begin looking at assessments in kindergarten through 3rd grade with DIBELS, which is Dynamic Indicator of Basic Early Literacy Skills. It's a reading assessment. 91% of our kids are scoring at low risk, well above the guideline, with only 2% scoring at risk. We are doing a really good job meeting the needs of at-risk students in the early grades. When you look at reading proficiency in grades 3 through 8, As you can see, we compare ourselves to the state average. We're well above the state average. Also, those two comparative groups. When you compare ours to the average of Guntersville, Boaz, Piedmont, and Jacksonville, you see that we have 95% of our kids who are proficient, while that group has 92, and also the Trussville, Oxford, Coleman, Albertville group also at 92. But we don't want to look just at proficiency. We look at the percentage of our students who are exceeding standards, scoring at the highest level on the Alabama reading test. And here again, you can see that in Oneonta City Schools, 71% of our students exceed the standards on the Alabama reading test. That's an average of grades 3 through 8, well above the state averages and even above those other top performing school systems that we compare ourselves to. Proficiency in math is also measured, 9 points above the state average and competing well against those comparative groups. And then exceeding standards in math. Again, not looking at just proficiency, but what percentage of our students score at the highest level. Again, here we're 11 points higher than the state average, higher than the Guntersville, Boaz, Piedmont, Jacksonville average, slightly trailing the Trussville, Oxford, Coleman, Albertville average. Our graduation rate is very high, especially compared with those other systems and the state average. And we also look at other academic indicators. One that we look at is the percentage of our students who are enrolled in higher ed. As you can see, we do well here compared to the state average, and we are very competitive with our comparative groups, as 66% of our students go on to enroll in some form of higher education. We also look at the percentage of our students who, once they get into higher ed, are taking remedial courses in math and English. We are kind of in the a part of the norm here. This is something we would like to see improved on. Of course, we are probably sending a larger percentage of our kids than some of the state average, but this is something we can definitely improve on. We look at our ACT scores. We begin tracking that in the 8th grade, also the 10th grade, and it's our graduates. As you can see here, Oneonta with a 15.7 in 8th grade, higher than the state average or the national average. In the 10th grade, there is no state average because that is not a test. We give that to all of our 10th graders. I don't think the state will start doing that for a couple of years. And as our graduates, all we have is a state average. We don't have a national average to pull from. But when you look at ACT scores, our students are doing well compared to those other systems. We're doing very well in English and reading. As you see here, we look at college readiness beginning in the 8th grade. English and reading are very big strengths for us. We're scoring well above state and national averages. When it comes to math and science, we do much better than the state average in math, slightly trailing the national average, and in science we are comparative. 12% of our students are college ready in 8th grade. That is something that we need to work on at Oneonta. It's also a problem not only in the state of Alabama but also nationally. Again, we look at it in the 10th grade. We give this assessment to all of our 10th graders. Again, the state does not. I think they will begin in the next year or so doing that. As a national average, also important to note that we give this to every one of our students. Nationally, only those students who want to take that. So although we're trailing in these indicators compared to the national average, it is important to note that every one of our students is taking this assessment. Our plans for our curriculum and our educators, we are looking at curriculum alignment. What is effective instruction? I would really like for us to focus more on authentic learning, especially that related to technology. But we do have plans. We know how to continue to improve. It's just a matter of aligning the professional development and the funds and the time to do those things. From a technology standpoint, we built our technology from scratch. We've had a lot of people invest a lot of time. We have staff who want to use the new technologies, but to be honest with you, our weakness is we are not doing a lot of the what people are calling the one-to-one technology initiatives where every student has a laptop or every student has an iPad. We're working on the infrastructure, but the ability to purchase the necessary hardware and the software and the training is a little outside of our means at this time. it is something we're working on. We do have a smart board initiative where we have put smart boards in all of our kindergarten through third grade classrooms, and we are still investigating top performing school systems and what they're doing with technology. I think extracurricular is a very big strength at Aniana City Schools. Basically, students have almost any opportunity they want to compete, whether it's academically or in arts and drama or the band. We've been very, very successful in extracurricular. Our band's one of the best band programs in the state. We're in the state championships in football and basketball. Things are going well for us extracurricular-wise. A weakness of ours is just finding enough staff to meet the growing demands to have coaches and sponsors for all these programs. Staffing, one of our weaknesses. The reductions will now not allow our system to maintain the smaller classes and the opportunities for students that have been available in the past years. We've had to cut back, and we are suffering a little bit because of that. Our central office staff has been cut back. We're a little inadequate in that area, and also with our custodial staff. We're getting by the best we can, and we're simply not able to employ at the levels that we were in 2008 with our existing funding. Our facilities, the strength, there are no major structural issues with our facilities. It has been adequately maintained over the 35 years that it's been in existence. The weakness, though, is that the building is over 30 years old. It needs some interior and exterior renovation. It needs a facelift so it creates a better environment for our students. And we have begun to work on a list of projects to try and accomplish that. As a note, this facility can handle about 12% growth, and once we reach that, then we've got to start looking at other options. We've created a list of things we've begun to do. We've got some renovations that you see on the left hand of this slide. Over the 2 years, we will probably be spending approximately $3 million. We've replaced the roof. We've painted the exterior of the building. We're renovating the restrooms. We've yanked out all the carpet and put tile down, replacing ceiling tiles and lights, doing electrical upgrades, a small renovation to our lunchroom, upgrade our stadium. Those are things we've done. We have the funds to do that to a certain extent, but future needs, these are places that we don't have the funds to do these. We've got the list. We know they need to be done, starting with our traffic flow and other things. But to be honest with you, the board's having to prioritize, and we simply can't do all the projects that we have on our list at this time. When it comes to community support, I think a strength is you go to almost any event in Aniana City Schools, whether it's athletic or PTO, or the crowd's going to be there. The parents are supporting their kids. The community leaders have strong roots in this community. They care deeply about the school system. There are also no private or church schools that have felt the need to establish a viable alternative choice, and I think that shows some confidence in the school system. The weakness that I don't think people are aware of is our tax effort. It is below average, and we need to do a better job of communicating and educating the public on issues regarding the school system. Proper planning, the strength has allowed our school system in the past to maintain financial stability and achieve above average academically. A weakness is we need to put in a flexible and ongoing plan that will excite our people and guide our decision-making process in the future. How much money would we need to implement all aspects of our plan of excellence? Before we get to that, I think it's important to note that since 2008, if you were looking at what we're operating on in 2012 compared to what we have in 2008, we basically are operating with $500,000 fewer funds. And mainly this is coming from the changes at the state level, where we were getting about $8.3 million from the state in 2008, and now we're getting about $7.8 million. Also, the federal stimulus dollars that were used in the last 2 years to help offset those losses are now gone. So we've had to make major adjustments in our school system because of this loss of revenue. These adjustments include reducing the amount of teachers that we have that are locally funded. We do get money from the state for teachers, We used to employ a few over what we would get from the state. We've reduced that down to basically zero. Our class size averages are up. We've had to reduce aides. We've reduced bus routes. We're doing things like double routing where kids are staying at school while the bus leaves and takes a group of kids home, and they come back and pick up a second bus. We've reduced our central office staff. We've reduced the things that our teachers have. Basically, we've reduced from 159 employees down to 143 employees in 2012. We're running a very tight ship. If you looked at cost of operations for our school system compared to the other 25 small city school systems, you see that our central office salary is almost $100,000 less, administrative services almost around $300,000 less, as we're at $558 and the average is about $870 something thousand dollars. And cost above the money that we get from the state called OCE, other current expense, we spend less money above that allocation than most of those school systems do. This is not necessarily a good thing. We need to be spending more on administrative services to provide support to our teachers and our students, but this is a part of the adjustments that we've had to make because of the financial conditions. But if we are committed to excellence and we understand that excellence is worth the sacrifice, and if we truly want to be a great school system, and if we want to be in a great community, and if we truly want our students and our school system to be excellent in each one of these 9 essential strands, you would be talking about an additional $1 million to fund this plan of excellence. And we know exactly how that $1 million would be spent. $20,000 in school safety to begin a social worker program to address the mental and social issues that some of our students face. $35,000 just to get resources and more training for our teachers. $215,000 just to reach 2% of our budget. The state recommends that every school system spend at least 2% of their budget towards technology. 2% of our budget would be $240,000. We currently spend about $25,000 a year in technology just to keep things running. We need to be doing more. We need to be investing in one-to-one. Our kids need to have iPads and laptops. That is the future. And we need to we need to re-employ more teachers, an aide, a custodian, and add one more administrative staff back to get us so that we're productive in providing the services for our students and our staff. $350,000 for facilities. Our board has had to make very tough decisions, and we are basically taking money out of facilities, sliding them over to our general fund for operations, which does cause a problem for future building projects. That is how we would spend $1 million. As part of our essential strand of community support, item number 6 says this is a part of our essential strands and that goes within each one of those essential strands. We do believe that our local funding efforts should be competitive and comparable with other school systems that we compete with. We believe the community should support the necessary funding to support our goal of achieving excellence within each one of our essential strands. And if you were to look at these other 25 school systems compared to small city school systems, what you would find is that the amount of local revenue that they're collecting, here is a comparison. Aniana City Schools, the amount of local revenue that we collect is $2,091 per child. In those other 25 small city school systems, they're collecting $2,439 per child, $350 more per child than us. If we were collecting the same kind of revenue as they were, $350 per child, and you multiply that times our enrollment of 1,450 students, we would have an additional $504,000 that we'd be operating on. If you compared us to the state average, we'd have almost $3 million. And if you compared us to those other high-achieving school systems who we're competing with, the Gunnersville, Boaz, Piedmont, Jacksonville's of the world, we would have an additional $1.1 million if we were just spending the same amount of local revenue per child as they were. And when you look at total revenue, which adds state and federal dollars, and we don't get as many federal dollars as some of these places do because our poverty rate is lower than a lot of those. But this does demonstrate how much less funds we have than these other places. If we were like the other 25 school systems, almost $3 million, $2.85 million. Gunnersville, Boaz, Piedmont, and Jacksonville, you're talking about $3.5 million. Tax effort is measured by the state by mills equivalence. Our mills equivalence is 22.91, which means we collect 16.5 mills of property tax from our citizens. There is a 1-cent county sales tax. Countywide, we get 15% of that tax because we have 15% of the students in Blount County, plus there are other smaller business taxes. That sales tax and those business taxes are equivalent to about 6 mills of property tax, which gets the 16.5 mills up to around 22.91. Again, that's a grade of D for our fiscal effort on the state report card and puts us ranked last, 25th of the other 25 comparison school systems, the worst tax effort. If you were to look at just mills equivalents, just the tax effort, if we were getting our 22.91 is compared to the other 25 small city school systems, their mills equivalence is 42.56, which basically means if they collect somewhere around 20 mills of property tax, when you add in sales tax that they're collecting or allocations from their city councils, that it raises their mills equivalents from 20 or so to about 42. If we had the same kind of tax effort for those other 25 school systems, we would be collecting an additional $1.35 million. And if you looked at Gunnersville, Boaz, Piedmont, and Jacksonville, the same. We'd be collecting about $1.25 million more for our children. One last comparison, as you can see, Aniana City Schools, our poverty rate, we're at 41% poverty, which makes us more like Trustful, Oxford, Coleman, and Albertville. Our Hispanic population is the one thing that is a little higher than most of these other comparative systems. And when you look at local revenue that is spent per child, you can see that Aniana City compared to the state, the Gunnersville comparison group, and the Trustful comparison group, we are much lower than they are. We really only are above Blount County in local revenue, but when you look at total dollars, which adds the federal and the state combined, of these comparison groups, we have less money per student to spend than anybody on this list. When it comes for additional funds to be fair to our community, we really prefer to look at tax rates, and we do believe that our tax efforts should be comparable to other school systems that share the same type of expectations. Our board, we've been looking at information, we've been having conversations with people, we're planning and adjusting, and we are trying to provide for our students, but we are limited by our current tax structures and current practices. We're working with our school foundation, Alford, to create one of the strongest school systems in the state of Alabama. We think this will help us. We are asking that the city consider us as a part of their future plans and budgets, and we are open to any other opportunities that will provide for our students as we continuously strive to have a great school system and live in a great community. We believe that most people would answer this the same way. In this life, I would do anything for my blank. We think most people would fill in that blank by saying they would do almost anything for their students. We realize our kids are important. As part of that, our schools are important. We do believe in lateral accountability, and we hope this community does as well. Really, the culture of any organization is determined by the majority of the people who live there. And we do think that schools are not defined by the behaviors of the students. It is the adults that set the tone, whether that be in the school or the community. If we have high expectations and want the best for our students and have the kind of actions that lead to that, we believe that we set the tone, and it's the adults' responsibility to make sure that our schools are strong. Three things: we have to trust one another. As a school system, we have to have a plan in place, and it's our job to help create the capacity to carry out that plan, and that's the community's responsibility as well. strategic tactics for ongoing excellence in Oneonta City Schools, we want you to know that within each one of those essential strands, those 9 things, that we are constantly going to be analyzing data, constantly looking at our action plans, doing cost analysis, constantly planning, prioritizing, and monitoring what we do. We do want to be a great school system. We want to live in a great community, and here is information. If you would like to view this video presentation, it is available online, or our entire plan of excellence, or anyone can pick up and call me at the superintendent's office to discuss these. We thank you for listening to our presentation, and please call if you have any questions. Thank you.